Hi, welcome to Sue Marie P. My name's Sue. Today I'm going to share how to make gluten-free pizza dough with this pizza flour called Caputo from Italy. It's the most amazing gluten-free pizza I have ever tasted. It's chewy, it's crispy. So if you'd like to see how to make pizza dough using this flour from Italy, come with me and let's see. So it's Thursday afternoon here and pizza night in our house is Friday night. So I'm preparing this pizza dough for tomorrow. So I'm going to use half a packet of the flour. So I'm going to weigh out, it's a 1 kilogram packet. So I'm going to do 500 grams of flour. And the recipe or the instructions on the pack say to make 3 balls, but I make 4 balls because I think it's easier to stretch it out when slightly smaller. So in this bowl, you can do this by hand, but I think with the texture of this flour, it's better on the machine. So I measure out half a packet, 500 grams. 500 exactly. And you're probably wondering where you can buy it. We found it in an Italian delicatessen. It's not that cheap, but when you compare it to trying to buy a gluten-free pizza base at a pizza restaurant that tastes great, it's actually quite affordable. So I've got 400 mils of warm water here, and I've got 7 grams or 2 teaspoons of dried yeast. So I'll just give that a little bit of a stir. So I'll just let that sit there for 10 minutes and we'll come back and we'll start mixing everything. So our yeast is all dissolved into my warm water. Now on my stand mixer, I've got my paddle attachment, not my dough hook. This flour works better mixing it with that. So I'm going to pop the stand mixer on low and pour all the water in with the yeast mix. We just need to stop and scrape it. This bowl is quite large, but I wanted to use it because it was a glass bowl so you could see the mixture. At the moment, it's quite runny. And if you jump over to my website, suemariep.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, which I send out once a month, and there's member-only recipes. But there's also the full recipe for this, and I've listed the ingredients in the flour if you're curious to know what's in the flour. Okay, that's all mixed. I'm going to start adding some salt. So I've got 7 grams or 2 teaspoons of just fine salt. I'm just going to add a little bit at a time. And then to help the texture, we're going to add some olive oil. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil, which is about 17 grams. I'm just going to mix it on a level 2 now for a few minutes just to combine that olive oil. Now you might be thinking at this stage, that doesn't look like pizza dough. It looks a bit strange, Sue. It's fine, this is how it looks. That's why we need the paddle attachments. I'm just scraping off as much dough from this paddle. At this stage we can't really form it into a ball. So what I do is, this KitchenAid bowl comes with a lid. So I'm just going to pop the lid on it. I'm going to rest it in the fridge for 30 minutes, then we'll come back and separate it. So our dough was resting in the fridge for 30 minutes. I've just got it out. Now it's time to divide it. And I like to divide it for about 4 pieces at 180 grams each. So I've got my scales here with a bit of flour, and it's now formed to be a little bit more like a dough. Pop 180 grams on here, 220. It's going to remove a little bit. That one's 180. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of water for my hands. So with wet hands, or you can put a little bit of oil or flour on them, I'm not going to stretch it like a normal ball. I'm just going to form it kind of like a shape. And I've got a container here which I'll put 2 balls in. And I'm just going to line that with a bit of flour. The flour I use is rice flour. I find it's a finer type of flour and it's also gluten-free. So just roughly get it to like a ball shape. And if you keep it flat more than round, it's easier to form into the bread later. Now these need to rest for at least 2 hours in the fridge. So I always do them the day before I want to have them. And they last for about 24 hours in the fridge. I haven't tried freezing this dough yet because we always just eat them. Cleaned up my messy hands. So I've got my 2 containers here with the balls in them. Not really balls, they're just kind of like a mound of dough. So I'm just adding a little bit more flour to them. See that? So it's kind of almost like a ball. They might go together when they're in the fridge overnight, But we'll come back tomorrow and I'll make the pizza dough for you. So I'm going to chill these overnight. So we're back with our gluten-free pizza dough. And I got this out of the oven. I got it out of the fridge a few hours ago, so it's nice and room temperature. Add some rice flour to my bench here. So we need lots of flour so it doesn't stick to the bench. If you didn't have rice flour, you could probably use some more of the other flour from the packet, but this is just easier. And then let's try and grab one out. Now all I do is I pat it and try and make a circle. And gluten-free pizza dough is a little bit delicate, so just do your best to try and get a circle. I think what I'll try and do is I'm going to try and zoom you in so you can see what I'm doing. So my shape I started with wasn't very square. Wasn't very round. It had kind of morphed into this rectangle shape. So I'm just gently patting it to try and get some kind of pizza shape. And look, you know, with pizza, it doesn't actually matter what the shape of the bread is, it's whether it tastes good. As I said, I made these a little bit smaller just so it'd be easier to manipulate. And of course, doing it in front of you today, my shape isn't really going to plan. It's falling apart. And it doesn't happen when I do it off camera. Today I'm going to add some tomato and cheese. So I do about 2 tablespoons of my homemade pizza sauce. And I'll pop a link up above if you want the recipe for that. It's our go-to for our weekly pizzas. And then we usually use about half a ball of mozzarella, 1/2 to 3/4. This is quite small today, so I may only just use half. Let's get this in the oven. I've got my pizza peel here. See if I can get it onto the pizza peel, but it's not being... Oh, how's that? And I'm going to bake this for about 10 minutes. Gluten-free, you just need to keep an eye on it. So my oven's on 275, super hot, and we've got a steel in there. For the second one, I'm going to try it on my pizza base here. Just might be easier if you're making this at home, you can do it on a tray, and then you don't have to worry about getting it up again. Put that flour that's just gone all through the holes. Okay, let's get this ready. Add our pizza sauce. So I'm going to bake this other one. So that's the first one already cooked. So we always put the parmesan on when it comes out of the oven. We find it tastes better this way. Check that out. Okay, let me have a bite of this one. Quite thin and crispy on the bottom. It's got a nice chew. My shape wasn't too perfect today, but it's got a really nice crunch but softness to it. So this is the second one I made out of the oven. Just going to check it to see how well it performed. And the base has gotten a little bit stuck on my tray, but let's have a look. Let's do the parmesan. I was just checking the base underneath to see what it looked like. I don't think it's quite as good as putting it directly on the steel, but it was easier to stretch out on the tray. Yeah, the base on this one, cooking on the tray, it's a little bit softer. I think I needed a few more minutes cooking it. But it still tastes good. It tastes better than any gluten-free pizza I've had in a restaurant. So try baking at home. Have your oven as hot as you can. And if you've got a pizza steel, use that, or a pizza stone. If not, just cook it for a little bit longer, maybe 10, 12 minutes. Just keep an eye on it and experiment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Pretty good.